Alright, eto na.
O,
Bumalik
ito
na
na.
ang
Andito na ako finally.
Ricardo and
Ang
Lizanne.
hirap, ang hirap bumalik, pero ang saya bumalik.
Kamusta bro? What happened sa Pilipinas? We missed you. Literally, kami ni Ronaldo.
Nasa beach,
Ayan
nasa
tayo.
Bali, yung mga bakasyon, alam mo naman, pagkasal, kailangan magbakasyon sa both sides ng pamilya. At pag nagbabakasyon, minsan walang internet or minsan sobrang bagal. Pero happy naman, happy naman. Ngayon nakabalik na rin ako dito sa Berkeley, which is extremely rainy. So from the heat of Philippine beaches to the rainy, not so cold, the rainy cold of the Bay Area.
Alright, so
Ako
hobby
lang.
duties. Okay, mga hobby duties. Ganun talaga. Don't worry bro, we're not gonna hold it against you kasi babawi ka talaga ngayon ng big time.
Babawi ako, oo.
Talaga, I'm gonna juice you out. Don't worry.
Sige.
We're not gonna make the episodes 3 hour long like before. Medyo nagets namin na um, the audience for that is not as big as I thought. But okay lang.
Uy,
Nakita mo,
mataas pa rin. Alam mo,
mataas pa rin, but
since lumabas yung ranking natin ng Richard A. Darren Show sa Spotify at saka sa Apple, hindi pa ako nakakabalik. So, hindi pa ako formally nakaka-congratulate sa'yo. So, formally, congratulations, bro, for being the #1 political podcast in the Philippines.
well, I would say together with Christian Esguerra.
Christian
Put it that
okay.
way. Para alam mo naman ako, I believe
Kaibigan naman natin si Christian, oh.
competition, But I was very proud kasi dun sa Spotify, medyo mahirap ang kalaban mo. Yung mga kalaban mo dyan sa top 100, yung mga tipong yung mga Vice Ganda stuff, Barangay Love stuff, not to mention pati mga Jordan Peterson.
Ito pare, tayo lang ang hindi produced na podcast.
Yes, yun.
Boy, di ba? Kasi
Kachipangan.
mga parang mga gigising, gagawa ng kape,
Puro
magkukwentuhan.
eye bags. Ay, eye bags na.
Okay.
Yeah,
Walang
I'm proud
editing,
ako, bro. I
natira.
mean, 100%. Thank you so much for that. Then I would say, okay, I think we're #1 non-production.
Yun.
Ayan naman tayo. No, but let me be very honest. Thanks to collaborations with you, Ronaldo, Mark, I mean, I think this was really the big part. In fact, I can say personally, among the best episodes we did in the year 2023, which was a big year for our podcast, was the ones I did with you, with Ronald, Mark, and then yung tatlo, the RRM and RRL did very, very well, bro. Very, very well. So,
Mga special. Sana makabalik tayo doon.
so I think that means people like that. Yung medyo bardagulan na dalawa tatlo tayo nagbabardagulan. But you know naman bro, may audience din tayo, very important audience. Yung Nexus natin, yung medyo ilustrado, feeling pretentious version natin, which is where we're gonna start today, right? Let's
Sige. Speaking of ilustrado, no? Speaking of ilustrado, kasi nga, saan ba nanggaling ang mga ilustrado kung hindi dahil sa impluensya ng mga pare, kagaya ni Jose Burgos at ni Papa P, Papa Pelaez. Tinatawag na ngayon.
Yes. Okay, let me first start. Obviously, nakita ko sa mga interventions and posts mo about Gomburza. Were you emotionally, like hit by it? I mean, like, what was the first of all? Can you talk about the movie per se? Yeah.
I mean, grabe kasi una-una sasabihin ko atinista ako. So yung version ng history na linalagay sa film is usually, medyo oversimplification to medyo UP style palaban, mapagera, and slightly at times, di ko din lahat, slightly at times focus on ethnicity. And that's why I had problems with Luna because it was that kind of old school. Now the UP history department is no longer like this by the way. Pero merong certain stream of the UP history department na parang old school palaban na Agoncillo, sabihin na natin, okay, wag na natin lahatin UP history department. Sabihin na natin Teodoro Agoncillo School na medyo palaban, medyo militant, na yun yung lumabas sa Luna. Remember, Teodoro Agoncillo believed that anybody who collaborated with the Americans deserved to be shot. Anybody who was negotiating deserved to be shot. Sinabi niya yun sa mga libro niya. And ganong klaseng uncompromising history that you see in Luna. Now, as an Atenista, mas moderate kami lagi. We believed in thinkers, we believed in people who were moderate, we believed in liberals, and we taught, of course, the history of the church. And for the first time, I saw a very Ateneo movie, historiographical approach, put on film. Now, it's very obvious bakit siya Atenista kasi, of course, Jescom yung gumawa. Literally, Ateneo talagang gumawa nito. And it's based on the work not of Teodoro Agoncillo but on the work of John Schumacher, who for me, and lumalabas lang Ateneo liberal bias ko dito, is leagues better than Teodoro Agoncillo. Si John Schumacher for me was the greatest Filipino, and I might add, Filipino historian of the 20th century, because Father Jack was of course a Filipino citizen. And that's the other thing I want to say about Gomburza. It returns us to the fact that Filipino is not a race. Right? Filipino is an identification with a particular place. That's what I think, yun yung isa sa mga pinaka-important lessons ng Gomburza. Kaya ako tinamaan there on a very intellectual level. Yung last, I love the movie. It's my favorite historical movie of all time. I do think though that they should have gotten rid of that last scene, yung cheesy scene, yung yung papakita mo yung mga katipunero na mukhang nakalinggo ng wika costume. Parang masyado ng overwrought at masyado ng literal, na parang
Well,
binasa
was Rizal really
binasa ni
there? Parang
Bonifacio
child
tapos lumabas
abuse.
na yung mga katipunero, ha?
Bro, I mean, was Rizal really there? Parang child abuse
Wala,
yun.
wala, 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 wala,
Wala,
wala,
di ba?
wala,
That's like a
wala,
imagination na
wala
yun.
siya dun.
Diba?
This is how I would have ended. This is how I would have ended the film, actually, bro. Hindi naman ako director. Pero imagine ko, for example, gagawa ka ng MCU style tag scene. It doesn't need to be after the credits, but just sa hirit. Wag mong ipakita si Pepe Rizal the entire time. Wag mo siyang pakita until yung last scene. And then you create a last scene whereby nasa Kalamba ka, tapos nandun si Pasiano, and then Rizal goes, Kuya, tinanggap ako sa Ateneo. And then Pasiano goes, maganda yan, Pepe. And then Pepe goes, ipapadala ko na pangalan ko sa kanila dahil tanggap na ako. Sabi ni Pasiano, Pepe, wag mong gamitin ang pangalan na Jose Rizal Mercado sa Ateneo. Tapos sasabihin ni Rizal, bakit? Sasabihin ni Pasiano, well, kasi Pepe, yung pangalan ng Mercado mainit na yan dahil sa akin, malapit kasi kay Burgos. So kuya, anong pangalan ang gagamitin ko? Sasabihin ni Pasiano, Jose Rizal, Pepe. Jose Rizal. Cut. Because one of the,
Yeah,
ha?
but you could start the movie that way and then
Pwede
end
rin.
with the part when he says it should be Rizal. Like parang that's the explanation. You could
Pwede
also
rin, pwede
that
rin.
way,
Because
diba?
one of, kasi si Pasiano, when he was in Ateneo, it was Pasiano Rizal Mercado. There is some debate as to why they dropped the Mercado, but according to Rizal himself sa letters, and some historians actually disagree with Rizal, but anyway, it's important that Rizal thought this. According to Rizal's letters, the reason why they dropped Mercado was because the name Mercado was already tied with Burgos and was therefore mainit na. So kaya siya naging Jose Rizal.
Na red tag na yan.
Na-red tag na yung pangalan ng Mercado, kaya naging Rizal. So it's a kind of powerful statement, and hindi mo na kailang i-shoehorn na nandun si Rizal, nandun si Pepe, tapos yung yung buhok pa ni Pepe, di ba? Yung kulot na side part, when he was like 11. My God, yung buhok ni Rizal ganun na when he was 11 until he was in his 30s. Grabe naman, masyado namang hard sell. Masyado namang hard sell. So I loved everything about the movie, except I thought the ending was really hard sell, man. But I'm splitting hairs here. Is the
Ending, I
best
think, okay,
historical?
I feel hurt by what you said. I completely agree with, but I feel hurt because for me, I think that was the most powerful one. But honestly, it's because I was already affected by how Nick Joaquin described the final scenes and all of that. Kung dun sa Question of Heroes, the way Nick Joaquin narrated it was very, very powerful. So when I watched the movie, it brought back the memories of reading Nick Joaquin's dun sa final scene, nung patay na siya, people drop to their knees. I think the way Nick Joaquin described it, that left a very kind of a long impression on me. But I like how you put it, na parang ikwento ni Pasiano kay Rizal, why he shouldn't use Rizal. And then the whole story comes, and then obviously that means they'll have to also remove the first part where they were talking about Pule and and then sa end, kaya pumili ka ng Rizal. So essentially the struggle continues. I mean,
So,
definitely you can slide.
so interesting yung insertion ng Pule doon because there were two proto-nationalist revolts prior to Burgos.
El Conde.
There was Pule, and then there was the Novales Revolt. I think Novales Revolt, 1820s yung Novales Revolt. you could argue that the Novales Revolt was actually more important than the Pule Revolt. Why? Because yung kay Pule naman, it was largely a debate within the church. Pule wanted to become a friar, but he was denied, right? So nagkaroon siya ng revolution. Si Novales is more interesting because Andres Novales was a Mexican Creole living in the Philippines. He was a captain. And nung sinabi na independent na when Mexico gained its independence, Novales made the argument that since the Philippines was governed out of Mexico, the Philippines should be independent from Spain also. So Novales launched a revolt and declared himself the Emperor of the Philippines dahil naniniwala siya na bahagi ang Pilipinas ng Mexico. So in many ways, yan ang first revolt mo to free the Philippines from Spain, not the Pule Revolt.
And
Now,
that creates a perfect continuity, not only with, of course, the Criollo revolts dun sa Mexico and then later
globally,
but also with Palaez. Because I mean, I was just
with
pictures of
also
Palaez.
Pelaez.
He looks
Pero
he looks
pero
white,
syempre,
if I could put it that way. He looks white. I mean,
yes. Yun nga yung parang sa tingin ko alam ko yung ginagawa nung scene doon eh. Parang sinusoften niya yung blow. And what's the blow there? The blow there is that these people are white. Di ba? So i-connect mo na lang siya kay Pule who was an Indio para you make it seem as if actually no, it's not as white as it seems. And then you cast Piolo Pascual as Pelaez. Pelaez was white, like 100%
yes,
white. He did not
totally
look
white.
like Piolo at all. Si Burgos did not could have looked a little bit like Cedric Juan, pero si Burgos, ang nanay, ang sa mother side, ang mother niya, half Criollo, half Indio, yung tatay niya puti. So, ang itsura ni Burgos puti talaga. Diba? Mas puti pa tingnan niya kaysa sa Ayala. So
Jazza siguro at medyo around, hindi. Sila Jazza more like Moorish pa eh. Ito, nakita ko yung pictures ni Burgos, more parang, parang more to the north eh. More northern Europe.
So grabe. So, kung pag-isipan mong gano'n, di ba? Hindi pa ata tayo handa sa gano'n. Handa na ba tayo bilang isang bayan na makita natin na some of our founding fathers were white? Handa pa ba? Handa tayo. Yung Ateneo nga, yung Ateneo nga hindi pa handa dyan. Isipin mo yung Ateneo. Meron silang, anong tawag nila sa award nila for cultural workers? Ang tawag nila doon, Gawad Tanglaw ng Lahi. Ibig sabihin, Ateneo mismo naniniwala ng Pilipino ay lahi. Hindi siya lahi, di ba? Paano naging lahi yan kung yung mga bayani mo, mga puti, kagaya ni Pelaez at saka ni Burgos? Hindi talaga yan lahi.
Yes, we're more Latina about it and embrace the idea of being a Colombiano or being a Mexicano. Doesn't mean you're like this color or that color. You could be like, I don't know, look like those guys in telenovelas who look completely Spanish, or you can look like some of these Hollywood Mexican actors who look like Pinoys, right? So
So ano ba talagang Pilipino sa kanila? I mean, minabasa akong quote from Pelaez eh. Sabi niya, ano bang problema nyo sa amin hindi kumakain ng tinapay kundi kumakain ng kanin? That's interesting. So hindi kulay ng balat kundi kaming kumakain, we who eat rice.
cultural practices.
Cultural practice. So yung mga Peninsulares kumakain ng tinapay, yung mga Criollo at saka yung mga Indio, lahat ng mga tao na magiging Pilipino kumakain ng kanin. So these are very interesting quotes that reveal to us what really Filipino is, kumakain ng kanin. The one quote from Jose Rizal naman is, some of us are Creole, yung favorite line ko from Rizal, some of us are Creole, some of us are Malayan, some of us are Chinese, but we all call ourselves Filipino. So,
anong letter yan? Saan yan? Please forward mo sa akin pag nahanap mo na yan. I think that's a very important one. So going back to this,
mag-Google mo lang, Google mo, we call ourselves Filipino. Nasa libro ko rin yun. So kung gusto mo i-check yung citation.
So going back to this, the omission of Novales maybe was deliberate way of softening the blow, maybe as you put it, but at the same time, this goes back to what you call the Diliman consensus, diba? Which is this idea of the true revolutionary is a Bonifacio na, I don't know, mukhang Tagalog, mukhang quote-unquote Indio, using violence. I mean, it was not only yeah, I mean, it was even Constantino was aside from Agoncillo was very harsh on him. No, I mean, he said Rizal repudiated the one act which really synthesized our national aspiration, and yet we consider him a national leader. I mean, essentially, they're saying he's a counter-revolutionary because at that last moment, hindi na sinuport si Bonifacio. Although there are a ton of reasons why he didn't do that, aside from not being revolutionary enough. So, I mean, do you think that may kasalanan talagang UP dito na in terms of racializing a
Oh,
very
no, di
prominent,
lang
yeah,
visualizing, but
and
actually,
classism also?
oh,
There's a Marxist classist also element, right? Na parang dapat working class yung revolutionary, diba? Yung parang it should be kind of a more like a, I don't know, Ho Chi Minh or
yung kind of yes or no history, yung parang kakampihan, hindi kakampihan, revolutionary yan, hindi revolutionary yan. Or ito, napakasimple. Yung binary ng General Luna, di ba? Bayan o sarili. Either or. Everything is an either or in this kind of historiography.
false
So I
binary.
think it's about time to live in yung gray areas where being a Filipino is a process of constant negotiation.
Which is important because when I interviewed si Pepe Joke, no, he said that before making this movie, he was going around Italy and all of that, and he was talking to Italians, and now the Italy as we know today is not a direct continuation of the Roman Empire.
Yes.
A lot happened until only around 150 years. Actually, parang
Yes.
kapanahon, no, ni Rizal yung mga founding
Yes.
of
Yes. And then yung sabi niya, 'di ba, yung Italians are made. Italians are made.
it's a project. It's a nationalist project, and as people who know Italy know that if you're Siciliano, you're very different from someone from Lombardy region in the north. I mean, even
Yes.
features are very very different. From south of Italy all the way to north. I mean, the joke. I had some friends from north who told me, "Oh, we're more Austrian," like diba? And the culture.
Nag-Alaska na lang. Oh, nag-Alaska yung mga yan.
Yeah, that's their joke,
Oh,
We're more like Austrian. We're almost German, right? And then of course the South, they say, well, they make racial joke that they're almost like from Middle East or something like that. Diba? So I thought that was very, very helpful. So speaking of national project, to what degree do you think this movie was important in contributing to a proper discourse on that level? Because at the end of the day, aminin natin, you want a movie that appeals to the public, so you need some cheesy part, as you put it. For me, at least to make it to make commercial sense and make it appealing. And I'm glad na 4 weeks na tuloy-tuloy pa rin ito sa mga malalaking cinema, and many were ashamed to show it. But it's also about among us, the so-called intelligentsia, right, or self-described intelligentsia. We have to be shocked into having a proper discourse on this and not be satisfied with what we inherited, right? I mean, how do you see that?
I think part naman siya ng progress natin. Like, to be fair, yung old school, what I call Diliman Consensus, the Agoncillo, Constantino school, konti na lang naman din yung naniniwala dyan. It's largely, the boomers who were raised on that. Kasi, 60s and 70s yun eh. The question of revolutionary/counter-revolutionary was very uso. And then feel ko baka yung last breath na nun was yung General Luna. So hopefully we're moving on na talaga. So, talagang pinupuruan ko talaga yung General Luna. No, I really don't like General Luna. Like I'm on the record saying that that helped create Duterte. So dapat talagang puruhan yung sining yun. So hopefully we as a community are moving on and looking at the gray areas in Philippine history, and that's sort of what this film is doing. May isa pang scene na medyo ganito na ginagamit ko rin sa klase ko, yung ganito kami noon, paano kayo ngayon, na napaka-fluid din ng discussion of what Filipino is, and it's one of the few films na hindi overacting si Christopher De Leon. So panoorin.
That's a good way of putting it. I love it, bro. Next episode, so I want to keep it short, not go too much about it. I want to just go back a little bit to Rizal and some of the discussions you had with some of the historians. Nakisawsaw lang ako about, emphasis on Schumacher, and we had some discussion about Benedict Anderson. I know it will be a little bit historiographical, but I think you're the best person to talk to. So shortly, balikan natin yung question of Rizal, Bonifacio. What is a true revolutionary? Who's really the first Filipino? I think we touched on those things, but I want to go deeper into that. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Lisandro Claudio, joining us from UC Berkeley. I'm just saying that, Lele, kasi mga iba na bagong audience, hindi nila alam yung boses mo. So I have to just spell it out.
Sure.
Thank you very much.